Susan Mitchell is a BMS in haematology and blood transfusion for 30 years or more, and her current role is managing the lab at the William Harvey Hospital in Kent. And at present, she is heavily involved with a network-wide replacement of the limbs. Sounds like a nightmare, that, doesn't it? Susan is also a training officer and supervises registration specialist portfolio candidates, and she is a registration portfolio verifier. She still finds time somehow to do some bench work and enjoys finding a good case which can be used to teach others. And in fact, when she's not working in the lab, she is involved in performing in murder mystery evenings. So that sounds very exciting, actually. That sounds fun, doesn't it? Her presentation is entitled Stock Sharing Across a Multi-Trust Site.
So why did we start doing this? So as a trust, our wastage was not good, and we were very much working in silos. We weren't very long a single trust. So when I became a senior BMS, one of my first remits was to actually look at how we could reduce wastage as a whole. And I was very lucky that I had actually worked across a couple of sites. So I was working at the William Harvey, but I was also working at QEQM doing on-call for them. And it gave me an insight into how we might be able to do this. And actually what we had done in some emergencies was call upon our colleagues on other sites to move over blood products to us, rather than the 2 to 3 hour emergency transport time from NHSBT. So if you're at Margate, you are pretty far out at the end of Kent, by the sea, and Tooting is our nearest centre, and that's nearly 3 hours on a blue light. And one night I'd had a real emergency, an obstetric hemorrhage, and my colleague at Canterbury actually sent me over blood, FFP, and I was able to keep an ANEG patient on ANEG blood. So this was good. It did give me some ideas. Could I have the next slide, please? So why do we do it? Well, we are one trust. The blood product budget is an overarching budget, even though we are broken down by site, and we have 3 blood transfusion labs. It's helped to encourage collaborative working. So we've moved away from that silo thinking to a more shared working together. One site does hold more O negatives, so sharing the stock does help reduce wastage. So here at the Harvey, we provide HEMS blood, and also we have 2 private hospitals that we provide emergency Group O to. And this is a finite resource, so it's very important that we minimise what we're wasting, because it is donated and it's given up by very generous people who would not want to know that it just goes in a bin because we're not looking after it. So yeah, keeping wastage down. And we're very lucky we actually have established transport for moving the stocks around the trust. Next slide, please. So we've also moved to holding emergency stock platelets on 2 sites. These are the 2 acute sites, William Harvey and QEQM, and we move them between the sites as needed. We used to share our stock by picking up the phone or faxing, if everybody remembers the days of faxes. Every day sharing what was going to expire within 48 hours. But we now have a transfusion stock PTL, so we now have an electronic version that any member of staff can look at any time, and it's real-time cross-site stock updates with short-dated units highlighted in red. We can also list our short-dated stock on the cross-match bench, so it's in the face of the BMS. Constant reminder, this is in the fridge. Think about using it. And when moving stock during the day, we use our existing transport runs, so there's no additional cost. And we have a fantastic serve team in Kent, and nothing's ever too much trouble for them, so we can use them to move products in emergencies. And they provide us with a 24/7 service. which is excellent. So the next slide is actually an example of our real-time PTL. And you can see at the top, it highlights the shortest dated, with the red being, I'm going to expire today, use me. We can see it's irradiated, we can see it's CMV negative, we can see what site it's on. So all the information we need is there. Now, I would like to have it on a TV, on a screen in the lab, so it's visible at all times. I haven't convinced the other sites yet, but next baby steps. I nearly passed out in horror a few weeks ago. I logged into it and it was so much red, and I was like, oh my God. So it actually spurred me on to get everybody, come on guys, we've got to use all this short dated blood. And we did, on all sites. So I was most impressed. It was a real team effort. Next slide, please. So logistics. So we're very lucky. We have a single LIMS. This allows us to actually transfer the units electronically to the stock locations on the other sites. So before the units leave here, they are actually transferred to the other site stock holding location. So this means the units don't have to be booked in when they arrive at the other site. And we all use the same paperwork and the same validated transport boxes. So we have a uniform system and a full audit trail available. And actually what happened was, this week, my colleague was doing the red stock conciliation and she goes, "So I've got 2 own eggs in my drawer, on my stock that aren't in the drawer." And what it was we had 2 own eggs coming from another site that were already in our stock, but were actually still in transit. So yeah, so that is how we do it. So next slide, please. So I pulled some figures just to represent what we're moving. So they're not the most up to date. So between the William Harvey and QEQM, 65 units of red blood cells. William Harvey to Kent and Canterbury, 40 units. And in that same time, we've also moved 68 packs of platelets between the sites as well. Now, somehow time expired. Sometimes it just can't get them used. Sometimes it's cancelled requests. Platelets, unfortunately, might pass away before we can get the products into them. But if we didn't share them, wastage would be far higher. And I looked at our latest BSMS report, and this is just the William Harvey, but our latest WAPI is 1.9. The target for our cluster, which is a moderate usage cluster, is less than 2.5, and the cluster average was 2.7. And I'm hoping October's is going to be much, much, much improved. And that's just for A, B, and O. And I then just had a quick look at our wastage, bearing in mind that we had so much expiring. We had no time expired ABO units in the lab for the whole of October. We had 2 AB that obviously we can claim credit for, and we had some clinical wastage, but it was less than usual. So I think we're doing pretty good. And I know that at Canterbury, they have a little sign up and they've had no wastage for a number of months now. So it's something visible that the staff can see. So yeah, that's why we do it, how we do it, and what the results have been. I would also like to add, we have been able to lower our stock levels over the last few years because we use electronic issue. So that's another really useful tool to help manage stocks and reduce wastage. And thank you. Any questions? Oh, sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, so we do have an SLA with another private hospital, and this is between the BMI Chaucer and Kent and Canterbury Hospital. And it's around the exchange of short dated units. So the Chaucer have their own lab and hold their own stock, but they have a SLA in place to exchange short dated units with Kent and Canterbury. And there is also an SLA to supply additional blood and plasma should they have a major hemorrhage. I don't know if any of our colleagues from the Chaucer are here. I don't know if we've ever had a major hemorrhage situation that's been required. but the staff from Chaucer can actually walk from one hospital to the other. And they come with a little trolley with the blood boxes in a cool and swap the units over. So any questions?
That's absolutely fantastic. Well done.